And then on today's edition of the Eastern Business Report, we're going to be looking at quite a number of things, and more specifically, Dangote's Ex-Deport price slash and its impact on the Southeast economy and business. And interestingly, just before we get into that conversation, let me bring you up to speed on quite a number of things that already happened before now. The fact that Dangote Petroleum Refinery has reduced its ex-depot price of premium motor spirit PMS, also known as petrol, to 890 naira per litre from 950 naira per litre, effective Saturday, February 1, 2025. However, Dangote Petroleum Refinery said that the price reduction was based on developments in the global oil market, adding also that it remains committed to transparency and fairness to all stakeholders. Now, in a statement, the company stated this strategic adjustment is a direct response to the positive outlook within the global energy and gas markets, as well as the recent reduction in international crude oil prices. Now, the question that really comes to mind, this, and by the way, this is not the first time that we've had Dangote slashing, as it were, the price for ex-depot price of petrol, and this time, even though it slashed to 890 naira per litre. Question is, how has this affected, first and foremost, the pump price of petrol? That's some of the questions we're going to be interrogating this morning, because even with the last slash, filling stations were still selling at the previous pump price. And and how this would pretty much affect transportation, etc., within the Southeast and Nigeria generally. And joining me on this conversation this morning is none other than Emmanuel Chime, who is a seasoned public affairs analyst, joining me live in the studios this morning. It's good to have you join me. Emmanuel, welcome.
Thank you very much, Ubong. Good morning.
Good morning to you too. First and foremost, what are your thoughts on this slash, as it were, in price of ex-depot, price of petrol in Nigeria?
Okay, at first, Ubong, I think we need to look at it in the light of monopoly and disbanding monopoly in the business sector. Okay, and when we say that, we will have to establish that competition is actually a life wire, to healthy business in any economy. Competition, all right. And so in that order, you understand that Dangote prior to now had sold earlier this year, right? Had sold at the rate of 950 naira per litre, right? And at the time, other players in the industry now saw it as, this is too much and we can have a better offer from the international community. And so they went out there to go and do importation. And by the time they were able to get it down here in Nigeria, they rightly said that the price at which they were able to import, happens to be a bit relatively cheaper than that of the locally refined products. And so, it brought about options, okay, in the industry, brought about options. And so Dangote, seeing that happening and seeing that it's now, running at par with his own product in the market. And so now seeing that you have an advantage, you have a relative advantage here. And so the relative advantage is that he's not losing anything. He's not making any importation. He's not paying any import duties, on whether he can, anytime at all reduce his own pump price. He can always do that. Everything about his business is being sourced from Nigeria. Production in Nigeria, the local material in Nigeria, and so he's not making any importation. And so before you know what is happening, he decided to now, come up with reduction policy, on the price. And so we now started seeing him saying he's now selling at the rate of 890 naira. And so everybody are now clapping for him, believing that, oh my God, this guy is doing very great. But the other way around, that is competition. And that's the beauty of business, a decentralized business, all right? And so in this context, now we begin to ask, are we yet there? No, we're not there. You will remember that prior to now, perhaps last year, in some of our sessions right here, I've always been talking about we having competition, promoting competition in the industry, in the oil and gas sector. And perhaps when NNPC talked about establishing or bringing back to life that's a Port Harcourt refinery, I rightly said, okay, that's a very good one. If we can have such a thing, maybe in 10 different occasions, coming to life, to compete with that of Dangote, then you discover that this issue of we depending on a particular source will die. And you discover that competition will thrive and prices will crash down. Ubong, I will tell you equivocally, if we have like 5 other refineries in Nigeria, locally producing in Nigeria, to compete with that of Dangote, let's say in the same ratio of Dangote's capacity, in production, then you discover that, Ubong, we can sell fuel in Nigeria here at the rate of 500 naira or even below. Dangote is only manipulating us, like for instance, currently, he's making it to look before us as per he is so merciful. He's a good guy. He's trying to help us. He's trying to show us mercy. So we're now living at his own message because we don't have any other source. And perhaps what he's now doing is that he want to put these marketers, major marketers that went out there to go and import, they want to put them to a kind of a situation of quandary, whereby they start looking for how to at least recoup the capital with which they went to buy. Before they now start talking about profit. All right? And so you want to bring them to their knees using pricing index. He wants to force them to buy his own product, whether they like it or they don't like it. If he insists to go out there, you import, then the next day he will reduce his own price. I don't know if you are seeing what is happening here, but the other way around, that is the beauty of a decentralized market. When the market forces decide the prices, So, but in this order, shall we start clapping for Dangote? The answer is never. Dangote is yet selling to us at the very high exorbitant rate. And until we begin to have a lot of investors in that sector who are being issued with necessary documents, necessary licenses to go into the business and to begin to maybe establish other refineries or begin to do importations or thereabouts, if that's going to help us better, then we'll begin to see we'll start seeing light. But for now, what we are just seeing is manipulation. Yes.
Okay, that's a good and that's a different angle to this. But the last time this sort of thing happened, sometime I know in December there was a reduction in the ex-depot price of petrol, so occasioned by Dangote. But I don't know in your own end whether you saw a significant reduction in the cost of pump price of fuel. I don't know if you saw that, and whether there was a commensurate, as it were, reduction in transport fares, especially during the December period.
Okay, the truth is that we are here and we saw what happened then. And so the other way around, there was no significant reduction in the area of transport. Okay, that was actually festive period, and perhaps we have forces of demand, increasing, in the area of those who are making moves from this side of the country to the other side of the country. And in economics, law of demand and supply, entails that whenever demand is high, prices tends to come high. All right, especially when demand is becoming higher than supply, prices tend to be high. So when you see that, or when you situate it to that occasion, you discover that what we witnessed then was that a lot of people actually have a need to make a travel. All right, and a lot of people actually abandon their own vehicles, because the purchasing power to go, to fuel the vehicles and make moves with it, we're not actually there. All right. So many persons just believe in at least looking for something to eat to eat in the first instance, with the family and loved ones. And so whichever way we're able to, get to our destination, let us do. Even if it's going to take us, jumping on top of a truck of, a trailer load of onions or thereabouts coming down from the north down to east. But whichever way, let it be that safely we're able to get to our destinations, and enjoy with our loved ones in the village, okay, for the festive period. But this one, now, when you start talking about Dangote bringing down, then I will tell you, Ubong, real estate sector. And perhaps in real estate sector, within that high period or that peak period of business and more, festive period and what have you, we declared promos. We declared price slashes. So it's not only Dangote that did that. So you can always do whatsoever, to promote your business or maybe to draw people's attention to your business. Right? Yes. And so we did so in our own industry. We did so. It lasted till January. And some of them are still running up till now. We'll be rounding off in days to come. I'm talking about in our own industry, in our own company, real estate. And so if Dangote have done that in that occasion, it doesn't mean that he so much love Nigeria. Dangote is a capitalist. He's doing business. He's not there to make profit. So when you see him make certain moves, he's making that because he wants to make more profit ahead of time. He wants to draw your attention because he's about to make another move. And so let not always see it as, oh, this guy is so good. No, he's not. He's just so good in business. And meanwhile, the business sector or the business atmosphere or the business waves is at his own bear. So whatever he so wishes to do, he just does that. But if I even will have competition, healthy competition in the industry, for goodness sake, you will see us having a better offer than what we're having from Dangote today. Who knew that Dangote will even bring down to anything below 1,000 per liter?
That point you just made now is very valid, because when he started, it looked like he was very fixated on a certain price range. It didn't look like it was going to come down at any point.
Thank you.
Well, so when it happened, you're going.
So whoever knew that it was going to come down anywhere below 1,000 naira, who knew that? If not that at the time, NNPC came up with, okay, we are now producing from Port Harcourt. At the time, another one came up from is that not from Benin, right? Another refinery. And at the time, we now saw, including the major marketers, talking about, okay, we're going to do importation. And all of a sudden, Dangote have to collapse down its prices. And maybe somehow you want to keep milking our naivety. Oh, but we're not even supposed to be talking about Dangote and his product up till now. I thought that we already, in this country, resolved that we're going to shift our attention from petrol to CNG. I thought that that's exactly what we should have been talking about now. And how many refueling stations have we been able to establish? How far we have gone with the infrastructure establishment in CNG industry. Instead of talking about PMS and what have you, how Dangote is manipulating us, taking us back and forth. Not like what I told you now. What Dangote have succeeded in doing, reducing the price just a few days ago, is all about bringing the major marketers down to their knees. You must come to my own shop and buy. Otherwise, I'll spoil your business. You've done well going out there to go and buy, right? But you cannot recoup your capital. And so after everything, maybe you will now be forced to come and even buy at a credit rate from me. And I'll offer you. After selling, you pay. I'll offer you. And you now discover that you are at my mercy. So I determine the price. And until we learn to issue licenses to other investors, and we learn to allow them to establish without having political clashes, political interest clashes over establishments in the industry, then you discover that we continue to suffer this.
You just mentioned another point that I was going to raise. The part where we will kill monopoly, completely. But you just said political issues and all. Now, is there a possibility that licenses could be issued to companies who are wanting to venture into oil exploration and all of that, and just like Dangote is doing, without that tint of political undertone?
The truth is that in this country, it's yet more like a puzzle. Whether we can get to that level, we can get to it. If we so determine, we can get to it. But we never knew that Enugu could be this fast in development when we had the previous or the XY governor, Ifeanyi Ugwuanyi, like we're having now today. If we should take Enugu back to 8 years ago, the moratorium period of 8 years before now, then you discover that nobody knew that Enugu will receive this kind of uplift when it comes to development and infrastructural wise and the innovations, right? Nobody knew. But we have now a leader who is now seated today and who is bringing in new ideas, who is bringing in a lot of things in the state. And it's not making us to see that, oh, wonderful, so this is possible. So we can have this kind of a thing. So when we talk about that, then we begin to proxy to your question, whether do we think that we can have, an atmosphere or a table where, these things could be done without political interests clashes. Then I will tell you, Ubong, we can always have it if we can have Batude who is working than when we had Ifeanyi Ugwuanyi here, who was the redundant and was not doing anything in Enugu, and making us to believe that everything could not work, that we don't have what it means, what it takes to do anything beyond what he was doing, and beyond paying salaries and, whatsoever that he was telling us as at then if we can have such a thing here today, then we can have that in that industry, whereby, you know, a leader will come forward, make some policies, and make sure that that policy is being monitored, ensure that there are no hands, you know, that are hidden behind camera, that are holding the policies from being active, and ensuring that these policies are being active and the right people are weighing into the policies and they're using it to better the economy. Once we start having such a thing, then Ubong, a lot of things will become very okay in that system. The truth is that we had a particular candidate during the last election who rightly said a whole lot of things and who rightly made it very clear. In fact, he presented the pedigrees and everybody saw, in fact, he was being investigated right, left, and center on, can we see any dent on this man? We could not do that. We could not find anyone. And that happens to be someone that, had it been we have today, maybe you would have raised some policies that would stand alone and some policies that will be devoid of political undertones, some policies that will make our oil and gas industry to stand outstanding. Ubong, if things are to get spoiled, you know, in this, you know, vis-a-vis what we are saying now, you know, whether there could be political undertone in policy making tendencies or not, it's going to come from the top. It's not your followers. If you tell your followers, if I see you around this place, you are in trouble, and you tell the EFCC and whomsoever, whatever watchdog, to look out for whomsoever that is going to meddle with this, discover everybody going to hands off. But if you are involved, if your family circle is involved, then every other person can play around. That's just exactly the truth here.
Sad reality. So now, very quickly, just as we try to wrap this up, now what are your thoughts with reference to this new pump, Ex-Deport price slash? Do you think it's going to directly affect the pump price of petrol? When someone drives his car, both takes a jerrycan, even a taking jerrycan is not even safe. But we're going to get fuel from the pump. Do you think it's going to affect that, and by extension, cut down cost of transportation?
One thing you should understand here, Ubong, is that, you know, when you talk about cost of transportation in Nigeria, you talk about a lot of factors coming forward. You know, people are importing, including motor parts. People are importing a lot of things in Nigeria, and we're making use of foreign currencies. That's dollar. US dollars, right? And US dollars is yet, you know, fluctuating up and down, especially on the high side of it. And so when you talk about petrol happens to be one of the factors that are affecting transportation in Nigeria. And so when you talk about whether it's going to affect, you know, the direct or, you know, the final pump price, you know, out there are the outlets, you know, being the fuel stations, then I will tell you, it may not have an instant effect, because these guys will always tell you, well, we yet have an old stock. So we're gonna finish this old stock before, yes, we're gonna finish the old stock before we begin to talk about affecting. After all, not everybody that bought from Dangote. That's it. Go to business world, they will tell you that I'm selling according to the way I bought. And so at a time, if you talk about, hey, that other person is selling so, they will tell you that that person is just selling condensate. Yes, it's just a chemical he's selling. So just buy it before you get from this point to the other point, then it's all evaporated off. Then they tell you, okay, you go and buy that their meter is not complete. No, they know how to build these gimmicks and how to build these blackmails, you know, very cheap blackmails against themselves. Let's tell you that simple. What we are selling here, we are selling, and we can give you guarantee. And what we are selling, we cannot bring down our prices until we finish our old stock. And that old stock may not be finished until 6 months' time. That's exactly what you should know. And so by that 6 months' time, maybe Dangote must have taken us back to square one. So, but the best thing we can do, Ubong, is issue licenses to other intending investors. Encourage people to invest in that industry. If we are yet using fossil fuel, encourage people to go there. Give them licenses. Allow them to go there, compete. Dangote's price will go down by force. I'm telling you that Dangote, let me tell you, Ubong, it may not be taking Dangote actually up to 400 naira to produce a liter in Nigeria. It may not be taking him that. And so what it means is that he's taking a whooping over profit of 500 naira if he's selling at 900 naira, for instance. That's exactly what it means. Per liter, each liter that goes out of his refinery. And so if we now bring other industries, other investors in that industry and say, okay, go and compete, and you discover that price will go down beyond 500 naira, and everybody will be shocked in this country. Let's just try it. and see. Because one we are talking the way we are sounding is that there is still a lot of political undertone behind what is happening today. There are still much more of them, very much more of them. Remember what, I didn't remember that his name again, but that's Davido's father, what he rightly said some time ago, that was sometime last year. He said something about a particular document he wanted the minister to sign for him, in the energy industry, because he is producing energy in Nigeria. And so he talked about the document. He said they've been able to put in a lot of money into it, between him and his Chinese counterparts. They were able to put in a lot of billions of dollars, in the infrastructure. But it remains a particular document that the minister needed to sign. But the minister refused to sign the document. Because of what? Political undertone. These guys are not thinking on how do we make these things easy for Nigerians. I mean, for commoners. They are talking about their own interest, personal interest. And once their personal interests are not being covered, are not being protected, then forget about it. You must give them. There was this minister in this country, that was being exposed some time back. Openly, the video went viral. That under the erstwhile President Muhammadu Buhari, that before you come to this country to come and do any investment as a foreign investor, no, you must lobby him. And it was open. If you did not give him, some handouts, very handsome handout, then he's not going to allow you to do anything here in Nigeria. And so what do we call that? And so when that person must have done that, and the minister have issued approval, then the person will only come to Nigeria business sector to do whatsoever with the Nigerians. And the minister who is meant to actually make policies that will protect the interests of Nigerians, common persons, will not do anything because he himself has been compromised. And so when we are talking about petroleum industry, then we begin to look at, are we actually that so seamless? Are we actually that so open? That's so devoid of, having policies that are so balanced, even policies, that protects the right, the left, the center. Are we actually having that? But the truth is that we are not having. What we are having here is political settlements, to some sectors. And go to Dangote industry. Go and check who and who are actually the equity holders in Dangote industry.
I think that's a good place to leave this conversation. Thank you, Emmanuel Chime, for joining me. It's been a pleasure as always.
Thank you, Kings.
Oh, well, that is the size of the package this morning on the Eastern Business Report. I played host to Emmanuel Chime, public affairs analyst, and most definitely an estate mogul. You're still watching the Afia Business Morning live from Enugu State, Nigeria. We want to kindly join in the conversation on our dedicated Afia Business YouTube channel. Kindly tap in the search bar www.youtube.com/@AfiaBusiness. While you're there, do hit the like button. Remember, should subscribe and turn on notifications. It's displayed right now on your screen. Turn on notifications just so that you get to know when we put up new content there. Coming up next is Afia. My name is Ubong Kings. Stay tuned.